Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the show. Everything that you need to know how to learn how to go into drawing your faces. So, that is one of the classes that we did. We talked about lighting the other day. And I try to explain all topics as simply as possible so that you guys can have a good understanding of these things. So, in order for us to start our lesson for today, I am going to require you guys to get to 5,000 hearts. And let's do 50 shares. Just 50 shares. And then we will start our lesson for today. Meanwhile, you guys get to choose what theme we're going to do today. But we will draw on Post-its until then. So, zoom, powers activate. There you go. So once we meet this quota, class begins. Class starts when we hit these. So hit those heart buttons. Hit that little share button on the bottom of the screen. And start naming things. Dragons? You guys want to learn how to draw dragons? Why are you always blessing us? Oh, you're welcome. Man, you work hard. Well, sometimes it just doesn't feel like work. What I do for a living, or what I do to make money, doesn't feel like work to me. That is why I'm able to do it so often, right? I'm not constantly thinking about when my next time off from it is. I'm constantly thinking what I want to do next. So I'm really, really, really thinking constantly oh my God, when do I get to stream again? Can I just get home so I can stream? I enjoy doing this. And eventually my path will lead to being a teacher, right? I want to be a teacher at college level. I will continue teaching and streaming and all this stuff, but I want to teach at a college level. I want to help a select group of people to get to their dreams. I want to be the teacher that I didn't get when I was in college, right? I didn't get a good teacher. I just didn't, right? I didn't get a mentor. I didn't get the person that I wished that I would have gotten. So I want to be that person for a few people until I get too old and I can't do it anymore, But while I understand the industry, while I am part of it, I want to be able to help people achieve their dreams. And I do that through my streams. I do that through my drawings, teaching you guys how to do things here. I have my YouTube channel that has hundreds of videos, hundreds of streams just based on everything you need to know about how to be an artist. If you guys have not gone to the YouTube channel, go to the YouTube channel, go subscribe to that shit. That's just a gigantic gallery of just resources that I've spent years, 7 years so far, setting it up so you guys can actually have that, right? Because I've always wanted to teach. So I spent a lot of time just making sure I could do things that were cool. But anyways, what should today's lesson be? How come I don't post on YouTube anymore? Oh, well, because the video files from whenever I download the long streams from TikTok, they get corrupted. So I can't upload anything because it just keeps on getting corrupted. So I have to start making the videos smaller, shorter, or getting my studio set up where I can actually stream to YouTube at the same time. So, but that I don't have an apartment. I just moved back from Scotland about a month ago, guys. Life has just not really been the same yet. So it's taken a while to kick back, but I've been able to do it more often by just streaming through my phone. So just bear with me and eventually I'll get there. All right, so we have Mr. Dragon. Did we meet our quotas? Yeah, we met the heart quotas. So we met the 5K, but you guys never share the stream. Well, you will start whenever we get to 50 shares. Chibis, huh? Well, we've been doing hands a lot lately. We've been doing like the lollipop approach to hands, and it's really, really good. It's really, really simple once you start learning how these measures work. It makes your hands a little bit less stiff. And you guys can go back to any of my previous streams to be able to see how I draw hands. Right? And there's an entire video called like 100 hand challenge that I did. It's like 4 hours of me drawing hands and explaining how to draw hands. So if you guys want to know how to draw hands really well, go watch that video. It's on the YouTube. It's free. Lots of free resources for you guys. 57 shares. Okay, cool. So I don't know. Have we decided what our lesson's going to be today? Have you guys? I need concision here. I need you guys to like make up your minds. What do you guys want to learn? Girl anatomy. No one's repeating anything, so I can't tell. Bodies. How to draw dynamic bodies. Okay. Poses and bodies, I guess, will be our theme for today. Poses and simple bodies. Okay, so how do we get our simple body structures to give us really, really dynamic poses? How do we make it so that we can draw these poses incredibly quickly without having to think too much, right? So drawing dynamic poses is going to take some basic concepts and foundations that you guys have to take into consideration, right? In order to draw really good poses, you're going to have a basic understanding of perspective. And that means perspective in the source of being able to tell one side from another from a sphere. Like you got to be able to draw through your objects, right? So that is the aspect of perspective that we need. Okay? We are going to actually, if you want to get better at it, you're going to have to understand how to put your characters on a plane, right? You're going to have to be able to draw your character and put them on a plane, therefore grounding them in space. That is going to be a very critical part of actually understanding posing. That's perspective. So these elements of perspective are going to be very much needed. Another thing that's going to be needed if you want to get better is going to be anatomy knowledge. Right? But not anatomy in the sense of you actually having to understand every single muscle that's in your body. You can take the time to learn all that stuff, and it is pretty helpful to understand it, but it's not something that you need to understand. What I mean by anatomy is I need you to understand where elements connect, how to simplify them, and how they connect to your body. And what I mean by that is angles, and I need you to understand how basic structures like your collarbone and your legs come out of your body. Your arms are very similar to your legs. They will come out, and once you understand one of them, the other one will make sense, right? Because they're both very similar concepts. They just work a little bit different. So once you have anatomy knowledge and placement, let's call it that. That way it doesn't confuse you guys. Anatomy placement is going to be the most important aspect of learning how to pose something, because you're going to need to know where something connects in your body in order to be able to move it. So if you don't know where your ear is, it's going to be really hard for you to rotate that ear in space, right? You're not going to be able to even rotate a head if you don't know where your ears go. Same thing goes for the nose. Same thing goes for the eyes. Same thing goes for the mouth. If you don't know where that goes in your face and you don't know how to map it out really, really quickly, it's going to be really hard for you to be able to, even rotate your face a little bit. That's why turnarounds and stuff like that are hard for people, because they forget that their elements are just basic spheres, right? That it's just a basic concept, but they try to add all the details first, so they end up with situations where they're like adding like super detailed shapes, and they just don't know how to add anything else because they haven't even thought about what the basic structures of these are. They just add detail because they look cool. And yes, adding detail to things is cool, but knowing where that detail falls allows you to be even cooler, because then you can have a lot of fun. And you can create really cool things that don't exist. Things from just your memory and your imagination. Right? That is the point. Like, that is the goal of our understanding of things. So if we allow ourselves the ability to be able to take our ego off of ourselves, right? Like, understand that, hey, yeah, maybe I do have some to learn. Like, maybe I just really don't understand perspective. Maybe you question yourself and you're like, okay, like, why is it hard for me to draw this eye when I draw this eye? Like, why is it this, like, the different size? Why is it in the wrong place? Why is that the case? Well, if you question that, you might understand that maybe you can't, or you have not applied the basic concepts of perspective to your drawings, right? For as much as we say that we know these things, a lot of the times we pretend that we know them because we just don't want to study them. So a lot of the times we are just drawing eyes from different sizes and stuff like that because we just don't pay attention to the basic lessons that we have learned in the past, right? Or we just don't recall that or that knowledge whenever we need it. So whenever you are trying to draw something in a different perspective or a different angle, it's always going to come down to your knowledge of anatomy and perspective, right? It's very hard for people to understand why me drawing a foot looking down is more appealing than their feet looking like this, right? And why does mine look like it's going to go into like perspective and depth and theirs has no depth, right? And it's not very different. The concept itself is not very different. Both of them are cones going down. Only the one has a perspective plane in mind, and then the other one doesn't. The other one's just on a flat horizon line. So if you want to get more dynamic with your posing, you need to understand how your body connects to each other so you can move it independently, right? Otherwise, you're also going to just have, even when you draw these dynamic poses, you're just going to have somebody standing completely straight, and that's boring. Like, you can't just have a character doing like a dynamic pose and then end up having like very stiff arms and stuff, right? Like, you don't want to do that. Like, you want to be able to pose your character so they look like they're doing something cool. Yeah. I don't know. It's just a matter of telling a story with your pose is going to be like one of the biggest factors. So let's say that's the second part of your foundations needed for this sort of understanding. Okay, your foundations will lead from perspective to anatomy, and one more. Your imagination. 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 You are only going to be able to draw as much as you can actually imagine. So if you can't imagine, for example, somebody putting their arm into perspective like Spider-Man, like pew, 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 right? And you can't imagine that, you're not going to be able to draw it. It's going to require you to be able to see this in order to be able to draw it. And that comes with a lot of reading comics, watching cartoons. Yes, Dr. Rod here is telling you to go actively watch cartoons and read comics, right? You need that for your career. You need that. It's your job, right? You need to see the competition. So you have to actively understand what other people are coming up with. So you have to be able to garner a lot of stuff into your reference pool, your mental library, right? And you need to just like shove that in there with like different concepts of like how the body might be able to move, right? It's because it's going to be an infinite amount of poses that you can do for everything. Like there really is like a gigantic amount of poses that you can do. Like there is no limit. Your body is such a there's such a variety of things in your body going on that you can just like draw poses in every way, shape, or form, and you can possibly never repeat one and be okay. Right? It just takes an understanding of a couple different elements to be able to draw cool poses from any angle. Right? And it's going to be the understanding of your rib cage, your hip bones, and your collarbone. Once you know those, you're good. Once you understand those, you will be fine. So let's talk about those and the importance of those in the actual system. I used to draw a lot and do the hair steering from the foot. Gal. I also look up pictures and kind of study pictures, try to understand. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Let's see. Okay, so what are the two major parts of our body that we need to take into consideration? It is your rib cage. Your rib cage is your main component of your body. Your heart, your lungs are in there. Like a bunch of stuff is in there, right? It's protecting. It's like armor that's going around your body. So the next element in your body that you need to really understand is your hip bone. Your hip bone needs to be understood because that is where your legs come from, right? Your hip bone leads to your leg. This little gap right here that you see is where your leg comes from. That means that the top of your leg is not flat, it's angled. And it goes down to your kneecap. It's an angle in which it comes out. So this ends up looking a lot like a teardrop. Okay? And this angle at the top is where your hip connects. So now that we know that, that is how our leg connects to our bone. And that means that we need to understand this basic area in a very simple way. And the easiest way to do that is by just creating a little noodle with two angled sides. That's literally it. That's the easiest way that I have learned to map out legs. They look good, regardless of it being skinny legs or really buff, muscly legs. I find that that's the structure that works really nicely, and it is actually really solid, right? As long as you connect your muscles back to those initial points in your gap, that is the simplest way you can draw hip bones, and it's honestly the easiest way to like work with them, right? So that would be, again, it could be you can consider it a cylinder with angled ends. That's it. Like, take a cylinder, a normal cylinder, and then you're going to angle these in. Right? You're going to tilt them down, and that's what this shape is. Okay? And then rotate. So, cylinder, tilted, tilted, connect. And that will give you legs that are kind of accurate, and they will work really nicely with a bunch of different leg shapes, from simple to complex. It'll honestly simplify your life. Just keep your hip bones like that, and you will be fine. Right? If you want girls with really wide hips, just make that hip bone wider. And then you'll have your smaller rib cage, and you'll connect them, and you'll still have your legs coming in from the sides, and you'll have your little hourglass shapes, right? That is literally what you do, and that's the easiest way to draw legs. Right? The thing is, with the right placement, whatever comes out of there doesn't matter. Right? If you have the right placement, I can draw a leg, or I can draw a tentacle. Whatever I draw from there is going to give the representation of a leg, and it's going to look right. That's the weird part. It's going to look right. It's going to look accurate. So understanding where the placement, that's why we talked about anatomy. We were talking about just placement, not the actual fact of drawing muscles and stuff. The placement of your elements and how they rotate and movement is so much more important than learning how to actually draw the actual body part. Because if you learn how to draw something coming out of the right place, it doesn't matter if you draw it super simple or if you go in and you add all the detail and muscles that you know, right? It's going to be exactly the same concept. It's going to fit exactly into the right same place. It just means that you're adding more detail in this version. But it could just easily be a noodle and be perfectly fine, because you know where it's coming from. So now, since you know where it's coming from and you know how it's located, now you can exaggerate it. Now you can play with it. Once you understand that concept, once you know it, now you can do anything you want with it, right? You can play with placement for posing easily by rotating your leg around the opening and ghosting it, getting used to how that positioning works. They're always going to connect at the same pivot points, right? So you can get used to rotating your shape in space and moving it around to see how it works with the other elements, right? And that is how you learn how to pose things. That is the easiest way to learn how to pose things. Right? Take any drawing that you've done, any drawing, right? As long as you have these two elements, you can now start posing them in any way you want, because you know where your legs come out from. So there's no limitations anymore. You can literally move them around all you want until you get to the right one that you really want to do, right? any combination of legs going into the distance with foreshortening or not foreshortening, right? Going into the foreground, background, you know that it's supposed to connect there, so it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what you draw. Like, it really does. It doesn't matter. Like, you're going to have it look right if you have it connect at the right place. Okay. So, let's see. What was it? This is great. Can you show hips? Okay, so the hips, again, it's just a cylinder squished in, right? So from the front, it's just like that. Cylinder, and my legs come out from there. Maybe I want them forward. Maybe I want them bent. Maybe I want the character running. Maybe I want the character jumping, right? It's honestly, you can draw the leg coming in any way, shape, or form you want because I already know where it connects, right? If I know where it connects, like everything else is irrelevant. Like I can draw the leg going in any way I want. Same thing with the arms. The arms connect at the collarbone and they pivot from the collarbone. So if you understand where that pivot point goes, you can draw arms going in any direction, being anything you want, and they will always look accurate because you understand where they move, how it rotates. And it doesn't mean that you understand every muscle, just understand where your body is moving and rotating from, right? Your arms rotate from your collarbone. So if your collarbone moves up, your entire arm moves up. If your collarbone moves down, your entire arm goes down. It also dictates the width of your arm right underneath your collarbone. You can have a really skinny arm, or you can have a really fat arm. The two, like the rib cage, your rib cage and your hip bones can easily be drawn like a beanbag, right? It's just a beanbag. So once you have this understanding, and it's that easy. It is that easy to draw it, right? It's that simple. It's a beanbag with hip bones at the bottom, and the little divot that you get from the beanbag, it's where your rib cage is going to come in. Once you have that, well, what's stopping you from drawing all the characters you want? From that, it's just imagination at that point. Like once you get to this, it's just a matter of what do you want to do with your character? And how much perspective do I know in order to be able to accomplish that, right? If I don't understand the concept of perspective, it's going to be really hard for me to be able to figure out how my body moves. If you don't understand how a basic cone goes into perspective and to the back and stuff like that, that's just going to make it really hard for you to actually understand how to draw these things anyways. So understand perspective before you go into anatomy. And listen to me on that. Perspective before anatomy. Perspective before style. Perspective is the only thing you should focus on for a very, very long time once you're a beginner, right? Understanding perspective is understanding volumes. Understanding which way your body rotates. Understanding perspective is understanding overlapping shapes. Understanding perspective is understanding foreshortening, which is just making big objects in the front, little objects in the back, and overlapping them. It could go the other way too. Really big, and then you just go into really small. I guess it's very similar. So yeah, it's a matter of doing that. Like, you need to understand perspective so that you can later look at a thigh. You look at someone's thigh, if you don't understand anything about perspective shapes, you're not going to see a simplified shape. You're going to see lines. You're going to be like, I'm going to draw like the kneecap, and there's a shadow, and then like I think it's kind of like this, and it kind of has a curve, and then like maybe there's a line, and then there's like a crease and a shadow. Things like that don't help you. Not at first, at least. Okay? Thinking like that will help you later on when you are in the detail stage of your journey. At the first beginning of your journey, most of the journey is going to be understanding how to overlap shapes and how to simplify shapes, right? How to observe and simplify objects into parts that you can subdivide like this so that you can add your detail to it, right? This is the goal whenever it comes down to drawing anything. At first, at least, especially when it comes down to posing. It's going to why? Because with this, I can draw this element and figure out the front and the back of my element by just tracing through my shape, right? And why does that matter? Well, it matters sometimes, especially when it comes down to locating your arms, right? On two sides of your body, you need to understand where your collarbone ends on both sides, and then that the arm comes underneath the collarbone. So if you do that, you can trace through your object and get to those elements. That is the same as going like this and tracing from the front to the back. Another element that works is when you're doing something like, I don't know, the jaw. The jaw is just two ears connected to the chin. The front right? That is essentially the same thing. Like the jaw, the only reason the jaw is hard for people to draw is because they don't understand how to rotate that element in perspective. So if I change my ears from being like this to like that, and I find my other ear by drawing through my shape, I dictate what my chin is, and I can dictate more complex faces by simply mapping that out, right? My neck comes underneath here, and I can start creating elements like people looking up and stuff like that without having to worry too much about like, oh, well, how does that work? Same, like ears will be like the easiest thing to locate. And then your ears connect to your collarbone. Like the muscles from your ears connect to the collarbone. So that is how you connect your body or your head to your body. And then you have your jaw that wraps around, and it gives you that cool muscle like, structure that you like probably want to like understand, but you've never taken the time to learn. What foods do you eat for brain and health? Dude, I am I'm like a 40-year-old child. Like I eat cereal like a degenerate. I eat peanut butter like it's gonna go out of business, like, and I'm never gonna get to see it again. And on top of that, I eat horribly. Like if I actually like took care of my body, I would like look like a supermodel. That'd be great. But I don't. And I just don't. I'm horrible at cooking, and I just take very little care of myself when it comes down to that part of like aspect of life. Yeah, normally like whenever I have like a girlfriend or something like that, they take care of me in that sense, but nah, like I just don't. Like I am horrible at like taking care of myself. Let's see. What other things do you guys want to learn about this? Do you have any anatomy books for drawing that you recommend? Yes, Michael Hampton. I recommend the books by him. Hampton, I think. Can you draw beanbags? Yay, I can draw beanbags. Woohoo! Beanbags, beanbags, beanbags. This is the most powerful shape in the entirety of character design, by the way. I still retain that if you know how to draw a beanbag, if you learn enough to draw beanbag in every shape and form, you will have the ability to draw absolutely anything you want. How to draw a child's body. Well, a child's body is no different than any other body. It has the same elements, right? So we have a rib cage. We have hip bones. The hip bones might be a little bit bigger just to keep the proportions like compact. You would have a belly that would come out of the middle part of your belly button, of your rib cage. You would have some body fat to them. And then the legs would be like here, like depends on what type of child you want. If you want like a teenager, maybe the legs would be like semi-long. If you wanted like an actual like super child, maybe the legs could be really little, like noodles. Right? So it depends on what you want to achieve with your character. Now, the head is still going to come, and you still have a neck when it comes down to like characters that have really big heads, right? Sometimes you just don't see it because it's behind all the elements like the face and everything, right? But you still have to consider that your necks and stuff like that are still there. Like you got to be able to draw through your shapes quite often to be able to find the things that you want, like that you need to add. Like it's not often that like you can hide things and make it look okay. Like people can tell, man. Whenever anyone tries to hide anything, I find it hilarious. Like I often scroll down Instagram just to see how people are creative enough to hide legs or like hands. Like I love it. It's actually quite the inner game for me. Whenever I do scroll through like Pinterest or whatever, I'm constantly thinking about like, oh look, they're hiding their hands. Oh look at it. Oh, they're hiding their feet. The features for a child would allow it to have a very big forehead. So I'm going to draw my eyes large but smaller or lower in the actual head. I'm going to draw really big eyes to make it look like a younger kid. My nose is going to be relatively small. And my mouth is going to be nice and happy. Right? If it's a baby, he's going to have more of a pear shape, so we're going to make the bottom part of his body a little bit bigger. He'd have a diaper. Right? Probably have a little bit of a belly. There you go. So something like that would be the equivalent of drawing like the proportions of a child, as opposed to an adult that would have more space in between the collarbone or the hip bones and the rib cage to allow more space for abs or whatever type of bendy scenario you have going on there. Your legs would be longer. They would actually have segments as opposed to just being like noodles. Your arms would have segments as well, and they would come out of your collarbone. And then your neck connects right at the collarbone as well. And it connects to your ears. So once you have your ears, you can connect your ears to the collarbone and the collarbone to the sides. And then after that, you get to decide what type of musculature you want to give this character. Because there's no, like, right now it's just a skeleton technically, right? So if I wanted to give this guy like muscles, like, let's say I wanted him like huge, right? From there on, I can draw my shoulders. All the muscles can go on top of this structure because that's essentially how your body works, right? Your body works off getting like muscles on top of your skeletal system. So I just add my muscles on top of my skeletal system, and I end up with exactly how my body works. And I can add as much musculature as if I feel like it, right? I'm going to require knowledge of anatomy to get to the point where I'm like adding muscles where they're supposed to be and stuff. But as far as I can add with my own actual knowledge, cool. You can do that anytime now because now you have the ability to do that. Right? And like I said, that's just your basic structure. Like your mannequin, your initial mannequin will consist of just a rib cage, some hip bones, and then whatever like structures of the head and like arms and stuff like that you gave it. And as you get better at placement and quicker, you're just going to be able to map out things much, much quicker, much more accurate. And you'll be able to just have a lot of fun designing things as opposed to worrying so much about where things fall, where things go. How are you going to like draw this? How are you going to draw that? Sometimes it's just fun to just get to create, right? Instead of always worrying about getting something right. I always find myself humans are really hard. This is helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. You are more than welcome, my friend. Here, I want you guys to do a little exercise while I rest my hand for a second. I want you guys to try a 3x3 head roll. Right? I want you guys to try this head, like this head technique. And it's really simple. You guys take a box, do a like tic-tac-toe thingy inside. On the second square, you're going to draw eyebrows, eyes, and a nose. You're going to draw an ear on this one. And then you're going to connect it all with the rest of your anatomy. Right? So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I want you guys to draw at least one of them while I rest my hand for a second. I'm going to start reading the chat thing. So if you guys have any comments, please put it in the comments. I want to see what you guys have to say. Oh, your lessons have motivated me. Aww. What are the best exercises for learning perspective? Split your spheres. So like grab a sphere, split it with a circle, or draw a circle inside of a circle and split it. Do that with different widths, different circles, different angles, and eventually you will get to the point where you actually will understand how to split a sphere. So that is the exercise you need to do to practice your perspective at first. Can you explain hands a bit, please? I'll do that in a second. I'm currently sketching with you, and it helps so much the way you explain shapes. Oh, you're amazing. Oh, you're welcome, Tiff. You guys get a little bit ASMR here because I'm going to eat my gummy bear. Yum, 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 yum. Can you explain how to do facial expressions? Sure. No, these won't be on YouTube for now. Now I'll post little shorts and stuff like that. But the ones on YouTube, like, we'll have to wait until I actually have my camera set up. Because right now I just have a phone. Like I'm streaming from my camera from my phone, and I'm streaming in my bed while I eat gummy bears. So facial expressions are fun. Because facial expressions allow us to tell a story with just the eyes, the mouth, and the eyebrows. Right? You can tell a lot from a character depending on what type of faces he's making. So, how do we play with facial expressions? And how do we make them make sense? And how do we have fun with them, most of all? Right? How do we make it so it's not frustrating to get different looks? How do we make it so it's easy and so we can explore? And then as we get better with anatomy and we understand elements of our body, we can implement that to our systems, right? So I don't like to tell people or deter them from learning as they go. Learning as you go is essentially the best way that you can approach life. So as you learn new things, implement them into your repertoire of abilities and skill sets already. So, are you guys familiar with the mask system? Hit the heart system. Hit the heart button if you guys are familiar with the little mask system already. If I see a lot of hearts, I will understand, and then I'll skip like the lesson for that. But that's going to play a big role when it comes down to the actual like system that I like to do for facial expressions comes from like understanding the mask system. So if you guys understand it, hit the button. If you guys don't, please let me know and I'll explain it really quickly. If I see that a lot of people don't understand it, I will explain it. So if you don't, okay, that's a couple. Okay, we'll start from the beginning. So the mask method is a way to segment your face that tells you a lot of mapping points that you're going to need for the rest of your face. And in this case, for our class on facial expressions, we are going to focus heavily on just the eyebrows and the eyelids. Okay, so when you are drawing your faces, I like to start by creating a sphere and then creating a mask inside of my sphere. Okay, this mask gives me a bunch of mapping points for my actual skull. So what I'm going to simplify is right now is going to be the top part of my skeletal system. Right? It's going to be my skull, but not every part of the skull, just this part of the skull. I'm only focusing on the eye sockets, the brow line, and the nose pocket of my skull. So essentially, I'm simplifying all these elements into this shape. The edges right here give me my temples. Right? My temples are going to give me the side of my face. I like to map this sphere as where my ear is going to go, and then know that I have to add space behind it. Right? That just keeps it nice and simple for me. I know that this is my ear, and then I have to add some space behind it later on whenever I start detailing my character. So that's going to give me the side of my head. Cool. So now that I have that, what am I mapping out here? Well, this is my nose canal. So my nose is going to come out from here and connect back here. So it just has to come back here and it's going to come out of this pocket. It could be long, it could be narrow, it could be perky, it could be whatever you want. But it has to come back and to connect to here because your nose canal essentially holds the area for your nose. So regardless of what size you draw your nose and what shape, it's going to come back and connect to those points anyways. Even if it's more cartoony as well. Okay, it's going to connect to the bottom and the top of that little gap. So that is where my nose pocket's going to be, and that gives me my nose. These are going to be my eye sockets. So my eye socket has two parts. It has the part that holds my eyeball, and has the part that's around it. The part that's surrounded on the outside is going to be my eyebrow line. Underneath is going to be my eyeball. And inside my eyeball, I get to decide what type of eyelids I give my eyeball. The eyelids are just hemispheres going around a sphere, right? That's all the eyelid is. Hemispheres going around the sphere. If you want to make it even easier, take a sphere, split it, draw a circle inside, split it by drawing a circle inside. Now you have the front and the back of your eye. So you can take your eyebrow, or no, your eyelid, wrap it around, and you have a perfect eye every time. Right? Because the eye is just a sphere. It's actually really easy. Draw a circle inside of a circle, connect the edges. Draw a circle inside of a circle that intersects it, and now you have an eye in any direction you can map those lines with. So, ta-da! Now you know how to draw eyes. Cool. Circle. Circle inside of a circle. Another circle inside of a circle. Oh, which direction do I want to choose for this one? Maybe this way. Darken the top line a little bit more so it looks like eyelashes. Close the circle. Now you have another eye. Oh! What eraser? There's no eraser on this pen. So that is the essence of the mask method. And then you add your jaw and everything like that after, because your mouth is too flexible to just add at the beginning. So let's explain that in an actual, let me draw an actual character and you guys can see how that works, right? So you guys can see an actual example. So I would be going like this. The top of the eyebrow line would be an indication of where my eyebrows would be. So I can change that mask to make it look a little bit cooler if my eyebrows are going to be doing something different. Right? My nose bridge connects to my nose canal. My nose canal can have any sort of nose coming out of there as long as it connects back into it. Cool. I decided to go with a little hook nose because I give them really jagged eyebrows at the edge of this. It's the edge of my eyebrow. It's also the edge of my face, which gives me the side of my face. This edge is going to give me my ear. And then I know that my hair and they're going to have to need a little bit more space behind my head. So I'm just going to expand this a little bit. Cool. Now from here, I have my eye socket, my cheekbone, and I get to decide what type of eyes I create. So I'm going to create my eyeballs so that I can map out my lashes over them. Again, my eyelashes are two hemispheres, right? Going around. Makes drawing those side eyes a lot easier, huh? Just makes it so those side angles are just a little bit easier to draw if you draw through your shape. Then we have our cheekbone. Our cheekbones go down toward chin. Our jaw connects to the chin. And then from here, we get to decide what type of mouth we draw. And there's so many different fun ways to draw mouths, but the easiest way to think about it, in my opinion, is to just think about it like another eye. Honestly, just think about it like another eye. But in this case, if you want to make a person happy, make a cyclops. And then just add negative space. See? Cyclops eye. and it works perfectly. Because an eye and the mouth are very similar, right? You have like an upper line that's a little thicker, for your eyelashes. Oh, wait, hold on. Is that an eyelash or is that a lip? Oh, I don't know. I think I confuse them so much. Upper line, lower line, but instead of my lips, now I draw my eyeball. It's the same thing. Just draw lips inside of eyes, like two hemispheres again. You can do the hemisphere thing. Your mouth is the same thing as an eyeball. How funny is that? I have been drawing for about 20 years. I feel like this is an epiphany for me. Well, Dahara, it was for me too, and that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. Right? It just makes sense. It's just easy. If I want to draw a mouth, I just draw my hemispheres, connect my lines, and draw my lips inside. And now I have my mouth. Hair anatomy, please. Hair anatomy. Well, let me fix the perspective on these guys, because this is like, ugh. It's like looking super distorted. Yeah, that ear is way far back. The nose does not match in perspective. This is all crooked. Let's see. Yeah, I think this, like the ear would go like right here. Yeah, so I'm going to correct myself, right? So I make mistakes too. And I often tell myself I make my mistakes so that I don't make the same mistakes again. I was wondering if you can give advice and keep going on drawing. That's Gargamel. Doesn't Gargamel have like the side? Sink his ears. Asmar. Could you draw the perspective to draw a dog facing you? So I have a feeling that you're doing that because you want to have like a logo or something like that, and you want me to show you how to draw a logo. But it's fine. I will be more than happy to help you out. So if you're trying to draw a dog looking towards me, I would draw his little nose popping out. I would draw his little face with little like tongue or something like. And then depending on the breed of dog, maybe his ears are floppy. Right? Maybe you can give him a little playful fur. His little jowls. And then maybe like he's gonna be jumping towards you like wah, so he'd be like having his little paws because he's like super happy to see you. He's jumping towards you like yeah. And he's like a super adorable puppy, so he's obviously gonna be super happy to see you. So there you go. That's how I would draw a little puppy, super excited, jumping in perspective, coming towards you. And in love. He's so happy to see you. A teddy bear with a top hat. Okay, let's draw a teddy bear with a top hat. We will draw a beanbag. Our beanbag is going to be our teddy bear. Let's make poofy legs. We will draw little ears and the top hat. Oh yeah, Mr. Cuddles. Mr. Cuddles McGee, he probably has like a tuxedo too because he's fancy. There you go. We have a little teddy bear with a tuxedo and hands. Jesus Christ. Okay, hands. Jesus, calm down. All right, we'll draw hands. God damn. Okay, hands. I'm going to explain it in a couple different ways. Okay? Pay attention because it's not that hard, but you need to pay attention to how it works. So I'm going to explain the last one that I have like actually done, which is the lollipop approach, which involves knowing where your wrist comes, right? You need to understand where your wrist is coming so you can find the middle of your wrist and then make a lollipop inside of your palm. It doesn't matter how big or small. I guess it does matter depending on, that's going to be the proportions of your fingers. So I guess make it a little bit smaller than that. You got to fit 5 fingers. So 1 finger to your thumb side, 2 fingers to the pinky side. Your middle finger is going to come out from that first lollipop. Your other fingers come out from those subsequent lollipops. The webbing for your finger comes by connecting these lines together. This is your knuckle, right? This is the knuckle for your finger. You have then your thumb, which comes in 3 sections: base, stick, and tip. If you think about it like that, 3 parts of your thumb: base, stick, and tip. And you have a hand. So now each one of these elements has independence to themselves. So whenever you are drawing your hand, don't think of them like this. Like, don't think of your fingers and your knuckles and everything moving in like a sequential line. Your fingers don't do that. Like, your fingers have like a life of their own. Like, so you can move your fingers in a bunch of different directions and it'll look fine. Kind of like we did with our legs, right? Like, if you know where they're coming from or where they're supposed to be coming from, now you can change them and move them. Now you can make them do whatever you want because now you understand where they're coming from. So understanding the concept of the first knuckle is very important because now once you understand that your knuckle, your wrist, pow, pow, pow. So your first knuckle is essentially the top and the bottom of your hand. Your knuckle is the same width of your entire hand, right? Like, you can see the top and you can see the bottom. It's the width of your hand. So your knuckles dictate the top and the bottom of your hand by just simply being there. Right? That is the top and the bottom of my hand. So, and then I get to draw my fingers coming out. Sometimes, most of the time, they're going to be grouped together. And that's fine. You can group them together and do like the whole princess look and stuff like that. Right? The whole like little Disney princess hand. So you can do that. Base, stick, tip. But that's the easiest way that I find to draw hands. It's just like, blah. Okay, you keep spamming. Can you draw the skull? Can you stop spamming? You have one warning, Mr. Katsa could look stocky. One warning. Keep spamming, you're banned. Okay? Thank you. But since you were nice, I'm going to draw a skull. So, the skull, you can start with your mask, right? To simplify the concept of the skull, you can simplify it by creating a mask. Now, instead of drawing all your elements like your eyes and stuff like that, you're gonna focus on simplifying and creating the detail that you need that these elements are mapping out, right? What you're drawing is your eye sockets within the eye socket shape. This is gonna dictate your cheekbones that wrap around your eye socket. This is gonna dictate your temples, so that can help you map out where your temples are gonna be. And then when it comes down to the bottom part of the face, you're going to have your front teeth that are going to align underneath your nose canal with your teeth. You're going to have your lower teeth and your chin underneath that. And then from your chin to your jaw, you're going to draw your jaw. Your jaw consists of your teeth and your molars. And then it goes back up. Okay? Your molars, and then it goes back up. And it tucks in underneath the cheekbone. I say we let the person who is spamming seal their own. No, they're not spamming them. They apologize. So hey, I appreciate it when people actually understand what they're doing and they like fix it. Like I'm not an asshole. I'm not gonna like just ban people. Should ban them. Like I give people like a chance to like understand. Like hey, dude, like it's annoying the hell out of other people. Like it's annoying me too. So please stop. And then like I said, I'll be more than happy to comply. Like he's just curious for knowledge. Like he's just excited and he wants to be a part of the lesson. Like I can't blame him for that. But there are boundaries and they need to be respected. I wish I had watched this all day. Can you do a hair tutorial? No, we're running out of space, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do entirely hair. So I might just fill it up with a lot of the things that we've learned today and give you guys a small recap of what we did throughout this like lesson today. So today's lesson started with you were going to talk a lot about posing, right? But we ended up talking a little bit more about perspective, and we ended up talking a little bit more about like things like the legs and more like basic anatomy. So it ended up being a different lesson than we thought it was going to be, but it ended up being a fun one anyways. So we talked about posing, we talked about the rib cage, and we talked about the hip bones. I taught you guys how to make hip bones really easy by taking a cone and then bending those sides in a little bit. And then you have hip bones, which give you perfect placement for your legs coming out of them, right? So that is one way that you guys can learn how to pose your things a little bit better. And then I taught you guys how legs and stuff like that, it doesn't matter what you draw coming out of those elements, as long as you draw them coming out of the place where they're supposed to come out. So placement is very important, right? Understanding your placement of your elements. Like I said, it doesn't matter what you draw coming out of those holes. It's going to look like the bottom part of the legs. Now, learning how to move these things in perspective is very easy as well, because once you have a basic body shape, right? Once I have my hip bones and my rib cage, now I can move those legs any way that I want. I can pose them, right? I can start moving and ghosting my legs from my, like connection holes and getting to choose wherever I want my positioning to be. And when you are doing like a client pose or something that you really, really, really want to push, you're going to have sketches like this, and you're just going to push these elements until you get the exact pose that you want. And then only then, when you're ready and you're happy with your pose, would you then go take it and add all your detail and everything on top of it. Like, let's say we're not really happy with this one, right? Well, maybe I wanted the legs to be like jumping both forward. And maybe he's pretending to drive an invisible car. So he's floating. I don't know. It could be anything you want at this point, right? But it's like, so you can see how easy it is to actually move things when you understand where they come from. Like arms and stuff like that are going to become a lot easier for you the moment that you understand how they connect to your body, right? How they connect to your collarbone and how they interact with your body because of that. That's going to be a huge, huge factor in you being able to pose your characters properly and easy. Like on top of that, not just properly, but easy. Right? Understanding how to actually move a body is a very hard element to like understand, but I'm gonna make it really easy for you guys by just following me, right? Like just follow me and I'll teach you guys as I learn. Like I dedicate a lot of time to just learning all these things so I can teach them easier for you guys. So my job, which I consider my job, like my full-time job now, oh, by the way, I'm moving to like almost like a full-time like teaching here on TikTok thing because you guys like actually have like helped me you guys helped me pay my rent with book sales. Like I paid my rent with book sales last month. That was that was that was kind of cool. Like you guys helped me pay for my rent with just my book sales from streams and stuff like that. You guys are amazing. This might actually end up becoming like a really cool full-time thing for me, and it's just wow, wow, just wow. Anyways, I think we're running out of space. And before I start getting all teary eyed, because I'm actually feeling really emotional right now, I'm gonna go. And before I go, I want to send you guys off with a nice message. So before I end my streams every day, I like to send you guys off with 4 kind things. So, love a little, live a little, laugh a little, and draw a lot. Have a good night, everybody.